So every so often, I just get on a roll with this stuff, and I'm going to go a little bit further now, and I just want to talk about strings because we just kind of covered lists, and there are quite a few similarities between strings and lists. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically just do some basic stuff with some strings. In W3 schools, they got a whole section here on strings too that I definitely encourage you to look at. This stuff is not really, at least I don't think it's covered in the book as much. So I want to make sure that you guys understand some stuff with strings because you are not going to get that far. I think the whole point when I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with this string theory part of my videos is I'm going to get, we're going to do some stuff that you could see yourself doing in Python with strings. All right, so to remind you, basically this right here is a basic string. All right, I'm going to just plot my name in there and just visualize the execution. So when I go a little bit further there, you can see no big deals. In the global memory here, I've got this variable, which has got this content in it. That's awesome. So what else can you do with a string? Well, it's not necessarily known here to you guys, but you could actually go into a loop, just like we went into the loops with the for loops in the lists. You can also do something here where I could, in theory, go right through this string and just, in fact, I'm not going to print anything. I'm just going to basically do nothing, but I want you to see what the variable actually is. So when I visualize the execution, here's my string, Grant Spencer. We go next. There's the piece of memory. Now watch what happens. Like all for loops, letter is a variable that will get created at the moment the loop basically starts, and then when we leave the loop, that variable will disappear. Now it's going to say for letter is in this string. We've seen this so far where I've gone for variable is in a list. You're going to see this is going to act very, very similar. So off we go. Letter is G for Grant. And then it's going to go through R, A, and so on until basically we get to the very end, and it's basically R. So that was kind of a cool sort of demonstration that strings can be broken down. You can't really break down an integer. You can't really break down a float. But strings, you can actually break down. And it's almost like they have sort of positions. It's almost like they have sort of positions. Is there a way you can kind of break them apart? Or the word is actually slice them. Can you slice them? Well, here's a cool part here. If I wanted to basically see, because I'm doing this in Visualizer, I'm just going to create variables and show you the variables in memory. If you're going to do this and you're not going to use the Visualizer, just do a bunch of print statements and you'll be able to see what I'm looking at. So if I want to, I could basically say, let's just say, well, I'm just going to right now go string slice. And what is string slice? String slice is str name, which is the name of the string. And watch this. I can basically say, take me from the 0th position, like a list. By the way, the first position is 0. And let's go to the 100th position. There isn't 100 letters in my name, but let's see what actually happens here when I visualize this execution. Bang, right? So it basically started at the 0 spot and it went right to 100, or in this case, to the end, and there was no particular issue. That basically means go from this position to that position. So if I edit this and I say, hey, grab the first 5. There's the first 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or another way to think of it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's grab the first 5 positions. That's awesome. And by the way, 0 is the default. So if you wanted to, and this next bit, by the way, is more Python than programming, but you may as well know it because it makes your coding easier. If you just want to take the default, you don't have to specify it, and this will basically give me the same thing, right? Take the default and go for 5. And in fact, by the way, if I wanted to and make that the default, it's going to give me the whole thing. All right, so that's pretty cool. So now let's go ahead and grab the last name. Well, the last name starts in the 6th position, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets me the S. So if I said, hey, can you start in the 6th position and go to the end of the string? There it is, in the 6th position, going to the end of the string. So that's kind of cool. And there's a little bit of slicing there. Now imagine, this is kind of going to be a little bit ridiculous, but just imagine that you knew you had a string coming in and you knew that the first 5 positions were going to be the first name. And you knew that the last, from the 6th to the end, was going to be the last name. So let's just do this and go 6. Let's make this first name. So F name. Let's make this L name. And first of all, let's visualize the execution and go boom, boom. So there it is. There's Grant, there's Spencer. We could reconstruct that first name however we chose. In this case, let's do this. Let's go and get myself a full name, str full name. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something funky here. I'm going to take the last name. And remember our concatenation friend? There's our concatenation. I'm going to concatenate this. That's the operator, concatenation operator with that string. And then I'm going to go plus. And of course, I had that highlighted, so it messed it up. Plus, and then let's go the first name. And that will give me a kind of a neat little, let's go next. And now the great reconstruction. Boom. Spencer, comma, Grant. So that's kind of cool. That is pretty cool. And really from here, I could do other things too. Like, for example, many cases, the user ID sometimes in a lot of companies is the first 6 letters of the last name in uppercase. Well, how would you do that, Grant? Well, that's pretty cool. What I could do here is I've already pieced together what the last name is. So I could go the string username. Let's imagine that we're going to be big time network people and we've got a list of a big department of a bunch of people that just came in. And so what we want to do now is we want to generate usernames for all those people. Now, we're going to talk about file processing later, but for now, we're just going to do this one at a time. So I'm going to go username is going to be assigned. And I'm going to basically take the first, I'm going to take 6. I think it's going to be for 6. Let's see if that actually runs. No, that didn't run. So 6 for 6, I think actually that legit meant start at 6 and go for 6. And of course, there's nothing there. So that was kind of dumb. So let's go, so 6 characters, so 12. Want the first 6 characters? Okay, that's what that did work. That did work. Now, realistically, I probably would have wanted to strip off, get the last name, and then just put the last name here. So let's do that instead, because that was hard for even my brain. So let's go grab the last character. We're going to start at the beginning and go for 6. It is really a good idea to when you're building your programs, just do it slowly and don't try to do too much at once. And that was my problem there, because it was difficult for me to verify what happened there. So there's str last name is going to pull the last name off my name. There's Spencer. This we don't have to worry about as much. And then we go down to this guy. The username is going to be that. It's going to be this guy for the first 6 characters. And there's Spence. Good deal. Now, usernames are usually in uppercase. How do you do that? Well, the cool part is that these strings actually have methods or programs attached to them. So if I went to strings and I go and I look at some methods, they can do all sorts of cool things here. I could capitalize the first letter. I could count. I'm going to talk about find later, but the one I'm looking for is just a straight upper right there. I can convert this to uppercase, which is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops, let's do that. This guy is going to be assigned this guy. That variable is going to assign itself in uppercase. And I go visualize execution, we fly to the end, and that would be a pretty cool username. Now, what I'm hoping is going to scream out at you is you're going to say, but Grant, how do you know it's going to be 6? How would you know that that is the where the last name starts? And the fact is, you don't actually know that. So how would you figure that out? If you actually got your names in here and you knew that the last name started just after the first space, right? So there's a lot of things you're assuming here. You're assuming there's going to be 2 names. You're going to assume that there's a space just before the last name. So again, we could do this a little bit cooler, but here's what I would do. Let's remove this stuff now I don't really care about. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this, and all we got to do now is figure out, well, where is that? Well, here's the cool part here. If I want to know basically an integer, so a position, where the last name starts, so where last name starts is going to be assigned, I could go grab my string, and because my string is an object, it's actually got a really cool method in here called find. Searches the string for a specified value and returns the position where it was found. All right, so let's do that. So could you find here a space? And let's just visualize that and see what that actually brings back. So here it is. This is going to be a variable. It should find the space. Boom. It knows that the space appears in position 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know that that's where the space starts, which means my last name is really starting on position 6, which is confirmed by our output here. So what I could do is take this. I could increment it by 1. Okay, that was pretty crazy. Increment it by 1, and then put that variable right there. And let's just go through this. Ooh, string last name not defined because why? Oh, that's a good point because I didn't define it. So string username, string last name. So no. That's going to be it's going to be the actual string name. So let's go string name. There it is. Okay. So just for the ease of our eyes, I'm going to add a few more lines just so we could just run through this, get rid of my garbage. So there's my string name. So string where last name starts, we should get basically 5, and we do. String last names, we're going to increment it by 1 so we can start at the 6th spot. Boom, we incremented. Username is the starting at the beginning. Oh, wow. Actually, that's totally wrong. Starting at the beginning and going to the 6th spot. That's not right. We want to start actually there and go to the end, we'll say for now. Okay, so let's go visualize execution again. Click, click, and click. And now we're about to go starting at 6 and going to the end. So I should see Spencer. And then this thing converts it to uppercase. And there we have it, right? But we don't want it to be Spencer. We want it to be the first 6 characters. So how do you do that? Well, we're going to go from here to, and in fact, you know what I'd want to do, honestly, is create a variable here, which is going to be this thing plus 6. Oh, yuck. I want to think about maybe defining that a little bit, but this guy is going to go to the end position. So let's visualize execution, and let's just go through. So this guy is going to go to 11. We're going to go next. We're going to go. There's spent, and then bang. So that would be the way I could create a sort of a username using some string splicing, which is again kind of demonstrating how similar these are to lists. They're actually more similar to tuples, by the way, because you can't change them. But that's another story, which for another video. So this is pretty cool. I suppose for those of you that really want to do this in the really cool, funky way, what if I told you could do, I'm pretty sure you can do nearly all of this in one line. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do this very, very, very slowly because it's crazy. I'm going to go Esther user name 2 is assigned, and let's just start off with it being that. We go copy, we go visualize, and go flying to the end, and good deal. So username 2, well on its way. So now what I want to do is I want to do a substring where it's going to go from this to this. So I'm trying to basically capture all this at once. So what I can do here is the beginning part is going to be int where last name starts. So the beginning part is going to be where last name starts. It's going to be the find +1 colon and go to that plus so +1 plus 6. Sure. My goodness. There you go. So that actually got really close. And now all I got to do is do an upper. And I think to get the upper, I think what I would do to get the upper is, so there's my square. So I think right here, if I put an upper here, now this might not work, and I should have tested this before recording it, but whatever. There it is. Good for me. All right. So see how this one program, in theory, could do this. And the other thing is, it's even worse because instead of the string name being hard-coded, of course, this could have actually been an input statement. But I hope at this point you're going to kind of see the wisdom for not doing this, because trying to debug this would be pretty hard. You got a lot of magic numbers showing in here. And although it certainly ran faster, I'm thinking that that this isn't really buying anybody any favors here. It's what is, I'd rather you guys sort of do it very slowly like this, where you can basically test. And again, you can test some of the stuff in the visualizer, or you can just test this by having print statements every single time to see what it actually is doing, and then remove the print statements. Okay, so that was a little bit of string theory part 1, where I sort of demonstrated how you can take a string and manipulate the string a little bit and produce a nice little username. So we kind of went, you know what? I don't want that to be the concluding thing. I'm going to get rid of that. All right, let's do that again. So we're basically taking this as the input, doing some processing, and spitting that as the output. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do a little bit cooler stuff with strings.